Okay, we're recording. Okay, all right, guys. The last time that we did our neuroscience, we talked about the amygdala. Okay, do you guys remember when we talked about that last time? Today, okay, we're going to learn about a different part of the brain. Okay, we're going to talk about the prefrontal cortex. Okay? Have you ever wanted to say something, okay, but you stopped yourself from saying it and like paused? Okay? That is your brain at work, specifically your prefrontal cortex, okay? Today we're gonna learn more about the prefrontal cortex and how it helps you focus, make choices, and affects your self-control, okay? So first we've got prefrontal cortex, okay, on the board here, okay? So pre means before, all right? So pre, okay, it's before, okay? Frontal refers to the front, all right? And then cortex is the outer layer, okay? Here is an image that can show you guys where the prefrontal cortex is. So as we can see, it's pre, it's in the front, it's before, here's the frontal area, and the cortex is right in here, okay? So the prefrontal cortex helps us focus, think before acting. It helps with our decision making, and it helps to control behavior. Okay? Can we think of some examples of when our prefrontal cortex is activated or not activated? Bo, do you have one?
When we're doing our work.
Okay, when you're doing your work. Okay.
When you're thinking about a decision.
Okay. Okay. What else might it be when it comes to thinking before acting or like making decisions? So one example I can think of is ignoring distractions around us. Okay? Can someone give me another example? What about if, let's say you know the answer to the question and you just shout it out in class. Okay, that's another example, because you're just shouting it out without stopping yourself. Okay, you're just acting without thinking.
Another one would be like knowing the answer. So like what you said, knowing the answer, but not shouting it out and waiting some time before for other people to try and figure it out.
Exactly. So maybe, exactly, like David said. So you know the answer, but instead of just shouting it out, you wait, maybe you raise your hand, right? And you wait for the teacher to call on you, and then you give the answer, right? Exactly, David. That is your prefrontal cortex at work, okay? When I stop and think, let me write this on the board for you guys. Okay, I'll pull this out for a second. Okay, when I stop and think, before I act, okay? This is my prefrontal cortex in action. Okay? So when I stop and think before I act, this is my prefrontal cortex in action. Okay? So take a moment, turn to someone beside you, okay? Turn to a partner, turn to someone behind you, beside you, whatever, okay? And use this sentence as a guide to come up with a sentence of your own, okay? Using the word prefrontal cortex, Okay? Okay, go ahead. Trinity, maybe you want to pair up with Mary? Mary and Trinity could pair up together. Okay? Do you want to pair up with Trace for a second, Brendan? You could give Trace a sentence where you're using prefrontal cortex. Okay? When you're using prefrontal cortex.
But anyway.
Good job. Good job. Okay, you're using your prefrontal cortex. Okay, so ask me a question. Start. Can anybody give me a time where we might use our prefrontal cortex at school? Yeah, have it right now, right? You're using it right now.
You say a prefrontal cortex or when we stop and think?
Prefrontal cortex, that is the one that makes us stop and think. It helps us stop and think before we act. So how do we use that at school?
Like just an example, like if you get ready to fight somebody, you think about it like before you, because your adrenaline's already pumping, but you don't know what to do in that moment.
Exactly. Fighting is a big one, right? How many times in here has a peer said something to you that has made you upset and your automatic reaction is to just say something back, right? Who has done that? Who has just automatically been like, you know what? Blah, 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 you too, right? Exactly, right? That is your prefrontal cortex, right? Just automatically reacting, right? Okay, so we have to work on making sure that we are making our prefrontal cortex active and not just automatically responding, right? We need to take that pause, need to take that break, right? Because when it's not active, what's happening, right? We're reacting. Okay, good job. Okay, Mary's gonna hand out vocabulary cards for you guys and word sorts, okay? You can work together or you can do it individually, okay? There is strips of paper that have examples of when our prefrontal cortex may be active or not active, okay? So take a few minutes, sort the cards into active or not active. So when is it active and when is it not? Active versus not active. You can work by yourself if you don't want to pair up, Trinity, that's okay. If you want to pair up, you can pair up with somebody. So active versus not active. So separate your papers, take a few minutes. Okay, good job. All right, good job. You got them? Do you got them, Trinity? You doing okay? You got them? Okay, keep them at your desk for now because I'm going to have you guys share some examples of which ones you think are active, not active. Okay? All right. Okay.
Easy.
You got it? Okay. Who wants to share an example of when it's active? Control?
You ignore your phone and finish your work.
Good job. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. David, did you want to share one? Maybe a non-active one?
You interrupt someone while they are talking.
Good job. Excellent. Crandall, what you got?
Stay focused during the lesson.
Exactly, active, you stay focused during the lesson. Okay, great, you guys are really, really getting this, I love it. Okay, Trace is gonna hand out dry erase boards for you guys and markers, okay? And I'm gonna plug this back in so we can check and make sure that we are understanding when it is active versus when it is not.
I think you should call it back to
Yeah. Remember, we're doing active versus not active. Why do you guys think it would be important for us to understand this? What do you think, Rachel?
So like, understand how it decision-making works.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's really important to understand that our brain kind of does a lot of these things automatically, right? But the more we understand about how our brain works, it's kind of like a computer, right? Think about the first time you ever used a computer, right? You didn't know what you were doing, it was really hard to understand, right? There was a lot of errors probably that happened, mistakes, right? But now, most of you guys are like professional. We got people over here hacking stuff, right? You've been hackers. So like now you guys are like professional with it, right? Because the more you learn about the computer and how it works, the more you're able to like understand it and use the computer to get stuff done correctly, right? So we want to use our brain to get stuff done too, okay? All right, we're gonna go through these slides. I want you to hold up if you feel like it's active or not active. So you can write active on one side, okay, and not active on the other, all right? And then just hold it up, active, not active, okay? Scenario 1, someone says something annoying in class. You want to clap back, but you stop and ignore it. Okay? Is this active or not active? Okay? Good job, good job. Yes. Yes. Active, active. Yes. Okay, definitely active. Okay, scenario 2. You are working on an assignment and your phone keeps buzzing. Okay? You turn it face down and finish your work. All right, is that active or not active? Active. Good job. Yes, yes, yes. Why is this active? Tell me why.
Because the phone buzzing is like a distraction and you simply don't pay attention to it.
Yep, good job. Good job. Yes. Okay, you are angry and immediately yell at someone without thinking about it. Active or not active? Not active. Yes. Off. Yes. Yes. Yes, exactly. How would it be active? What would you do if it was active here?
So what's the question I just had?
If you wanted to make this active instead of not active, how would it be? Instead of yelling, what would you do?
Okay, so basically I'm angry, meaning like during that time you don't think before you act. But if I ever had that opportunity, I'll just walk away.
Walk away. Okay, take a breath, take a moment, take a pause, right? What were you gonna say, Crandall?
Me personally, if my prefrontal cortex
Oh.
is active, I think you'd want to like think about what you want to say and then explain it in like a nicer way, so just yelling at them like.
Okay, that's good too. Yes, both of those are examples of it being active, right? Because both times you're stopping and thinking, making a choice, right? Good job. Okay. feel frustrated on a hard problem, instead of quitting, you take a breath and try again. Active, active, active. Yes, David, why do you think it's active?
Because you're not quitting, you keep on trying,
Yep, good job.
so you can keep getting better at it
Yeah.
until you eventually solve the problem.
Because a lot of times when we just quit something, why is it that we quit things a lot of times? Why do we quit something?
Because we're afraid of failing.
Because you're afraid of failing? Because why? Because it could be because you just don't feel like doing it, you're lazy. A lot of times when I feel like I'm gonna quit something, it's because I'm frustrated in the moment. And so I do it like out of reaction instead of like really thinking about, is this just a hard moment that I need to get through? Is this just a hard problem I need to get through? Right? Instead of just quitting, right? Okay, good. Your friend says skip class with me. You think about the consequences and decide to stay. Active, not active. You guys all better be saying active, right? Okay, good, good. And what would it be if it was not active?
You would accept the request for the demand and skip it.
Yeah, yes,
Which would be fine.
exactly. It might be fun in the moment, but the consequences at the end is what's not gonna be fun, right? Okay, good job, guys. All right, here we go. You start typing a risky text message. Then you think, yeah, that's a bad idea, and you delete it. Okay? Active, non-active. Okay? Why is this active? What do you think, Cottrell?
It's active because you never know what could happen if you write that message and whoever you send it to reads it. Like you just never know what could happen.
Yeah. I put this up there because it is kind of funny, but also the truth is, I feel like with social media and cell phones, and this is like a really big thing for you guys. Not just for you guys, for me too. Like there's been so many times where like you see something that a comment maybe somebody makes, and instead of just hurrying up and retaliating, right? Taking that moment, taking that pause and thinking before you act, right? Good job, guys. Good job. Okay. For this last part, all right, I want you guys to fill in the blank here, okay? So my prefrontal cortex helps me. My prefrontal cortex is active because, okay? Fill in the blank, okay? My prefrontal cortex is not active because, okay? Say it out loud. So my prefrontal cortex is active because I stopped to think before I yelled at David. Okay? My prefrontal cortex is not active because I lost at the game and I threw the board game over. Okay? So those are some examples. So use the sentence frame, say it out loud, turn to a partner, turn to a peer, whatever. Just say it out loud so that we're making sure that we know how our prefrontal cortex is. Okay? Oh, good idea. Control, or write it on your board. If you want to write it on your board too. That's great. That's great. Okay, Mary is gonna pass out an exit ticket for everybody. So if you guys will take a few minutes to fill out this exit ticket, all right? While she's handing those out, does anybody have a question or something about the prefrontal cortex? When it's active, when it's not active? Okay, no questions? What's your question?
So like, say it's like, I don't know, like, mentally challenged kids.
Okay. I think that sometimes it just depends on like their disability, right? Or like what their condition is. But yes, sometimes people do have problems in their brain that makes their prefrontal cortex not work correctly, and then therefore it affects their decision-making really bad, which is really important for them, because if I had a problem inside my brain, can you see it on the outside of my body? No. Have you ever met somebody and they're constantly like doing these impulsive things and not thinking before acting and making wild like choices and decisions, right? Have you ever met someone like that? Well, it's important to think about this, right? Because it could be because their prefrontal cortex maybe is damaged or doesn't work right, or they don't know how to utilize it correctly.
But prefrontal cortex is active because I did not spend $50 at that goddamn Chinese place.
Oh,
They
okay.
keep giving me, I know their
Missile
food
knows
is
where it
good.
is. The note where it is.
I know their food is good, and they
Yeah, you're
cannot
right.
be getting away with this. It is so expensive just for a little bit of Chinese food, okay?
Yeah.
I swear. They can't keep it. They can't.
They
I-
can't.
I'm not spending $50.
You're not?
spending $50.
Very good.
It's worth
What were you
it.
gonna say, Michelle?
The prefrontal cortex is active because
Yes, it does. Good job. Control says it helps you be more decisive, right? That is excellent. Okay, good job. Okay, guys, take a few minutes, fill out your exit ticket, okay, and then turn them in to me when you get a chance. Clean up your boards, and you can turn them in at the table.
mine too, we have paper.
Sure.
Okay.
Let me stop this real quick.